Hello, I'm Neil Whelan, and welcome to the Wesleyan podcast. Pensions are again the hot topic for this episode, as we look at how the current situation is impacting on NHS pensions for dentists. Although, as is often the case, there should be something in here for everyone, no matter what profession you're in. Laura Whyte is asking the questions, and Wesleyan Financial Services Regional Manager for Dentists, Neil Richardson, is answering them. They cover a wide range of issues, including the impact of the current high inflation, the after effects of the government's autumn statement, and how to prepare for the next tax year. As always, while this podcast is for information only and isn't financial advice, Wesleyan Financial Services and its specialist financial advisors can provide the help you need. So stay tuned to the end, where I'll be telling you how to get in touch. But for now, I'll hand you over to the other Neil, and first up, Laura.
Welcome, Neil. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Laura. Happy to speak and looking forward to talking to everybody about all these changes.
Absolutely. So just to start us off then, we're all hearing in the news about the impact of CPI inflation on the cost of living, but many people aren't aware of the impact it's had on the NHS pension and specifically around the annual allowance. Do you mind telling us a little more about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Laura. Yeah. So what we're finding is that dentists who have had issues with the annual allowance in the past are kind of aware of things, but for the 2021-2022 tax year, we're starting to be contacted by lots of clients who are new to the concept of the impact of CPI on the NHS pension scheme. And it's because of the rise in CPI that we saw between September 2020 and September 2021, which was a jump from 0.5% to 3.1%. And what that jump, although it feels quite small as numbers, what that means is that many dentists have, for the first time in 2021-22 tax year, breached the annual allowance and are looking at the option of paying additional tax or using the scheme payers system for the first time. So why is that? Well, the NHS pension offers dentists the continuous indexation of their current and prior pension benefits, and this is done in line with CPI each year, with an additional 1.5% added for active scheme members. So the CPI rate is measured in September each year, and this CPI figure is then used for inflation linking pension scheme members' benefits in that tax year. And what the inflation linking means for members of the scheme is that they see their NHS pension grow each year, not just because of the amount of pensionable work that they've completed, but also because of the inflation linking of the pension that they've already earned. This tends to mean that when we see inflation fall from September to September, we see low annual allowance figures for scheme members, but when inflation rises from September to September, we see big jumps. So if we look at CPI for the past few Septembers, we can see why this is an issue for dentists. In September 2020, CPI was 0.5%, as I've already said, and for active members, the addition of the active revaluation we've talked about meant that scheme members' pensions grew by 2%. In September 2021, CPI had risen to 3.1%, meaning a 4.6% growth in benefits, and the jump caused the spike in dentists we're currently seeing facing annual allowance charges for the first time. And personally, I'm aware of several clients looking at an additional tax bill in excess of £10,000. That's something they've never been confronted by before. So obviously a big concern. Now, if we think about what's happened in 2022, and we've all been seeing the headlines in the news, September CPI was 10.1%, and dentists are looking at, therefore, a growth in benefits of 11.6% in this tax year. And that means many are worrying about facing another potential additional tax charge due to the annual allowance on top of their normal tax bill next year. So with CPI jumping so much from 2021 to 2022, many dentists are obviously worried about what this may mean for the annual allowance positions and therefore their tax bills.
That does sound really worrying. So is there any prospect of a solution for this issue?
So the good news is that we can't say definitely yes, but we can say that it's being looked at. So the government published a consultation on the 5th of December to look into how they can soften the impact of rising inflation on the annual allowance for NHS pension scheme members. And it should be really clear that is just for NHS pension scheme members. It's been identified that this tax year is likely to see increased levels of higher annual allowance charges being generated, and that this has arisen artificially and solely down to the consecutive years of rising inflation levels and the use of CPI as the measure for pension growth. So a solution has been proposed by the Department of Health and Social Care that will cover England and Wales, and governments in Scotland and Northern Ireland have indicated an intention to follow suit, I think is the best way to put it. The solution would potentially involve delaying the date at which the NHS pension scheme revalues a career average, so such as the 2015 NHS pension scheme, or dynamises the earnings of a practitioner's pension, such as in the 1995 or 2008 NHS pension schemes for practitioners. In a typical year, we would expect revaluation or dynamisation events to occur on the 1st of April, so within the tax year. And the consultation proposes that this could be moved to the 6th of April each year, with commencement being potentially the 6th of April 2023. So, assuming the government maintains its long-held practice that the level of pension revaluation or earnings dynamisation will be 11.6%, so that the CPI rate from September 2022 plus an extra 1.5%, by potentially delaying the revaluation or dynamising events until effectively the first day of the next tax year, we could see that two things could happen. The first is that there would be no pension growth associated with revaluation or dynamisation in the 22-23 tax year. There'll still be pension growth based on the NHS pension work you've done over that year, so 1/54th of your earnings, but not from revaluation or dynamisation. The second thing is that HMRC could allow for some linked inflationary growth of the pension, and the solution proposed outlined means that HMRC's allowance for inflationary growth in 23-24 will be 10.1%, which is better aligned with the revaluation and dynamisation given in that year. And it means that there'll be no artificial increase in AA charges or annual allowance charges in this tax year. So what does that mean in simple terms? So an example of the impact of this is that for a member with £12,500 in an NHS pension as of April 22, with pensionable earnings for the year of £100,000 per annum, NHS pension growth over the tax year could decrease from £50,000 prior to this intervention to nearer to £19,000 after the intervention. And it's really important that we say could, because as I say, this is a consultation. So the Department of Health and Social Care has indicated that if they go ahead with this change to the NHS pension following the consultation, they would be likely to continue with this new practice of delaying the revaluation and dynamisation beyond 2023. So it would sit on the 6th of April going forwards. There's obviously further discussions to be had on the exact application of the proposal and what potential pitfalls it may present, but obviously the consultation is going to look at those things.
Okay, so it sounds promising that they're at least having a discussion about it, as I imagine it's going to be a big problem for a lot of dentists.
Yeah, they're definitely aware that it's an issue, and obviously that's why the consultation has been started.
Absolutely. So is there anything else that we need to be aware of in the future that might be impacting people's pensions?
So there is. I'm going to be really, really clear that this is a rumour, so it's things that we're hearing. It's not things that we know are definitely going to happen. So that rumour effectively is in relation to how negative accumulation years are used going forwards, are attributed going forwards. And effectively what we're hearing is that where currently a fall in CPI from year to year would yield an artificial negative input for the annual allowance that's recorded as £0, what HMRC may allow is the true negative number to be reflected. And what that means is that when dentists are using carry forward in future years to try and offset annual allowance charges, any years where inflation falls may give them an assist in terms of a negative number that allows for more offsetting to occur, where previously it would have been a zero. So effectively, that there could be an increase in the amount of carry forward that would be available to offset a big year. If that happens, then obviously that would be a big positive for many dentists.
At least they've got some good news as well then.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Hopefully.
So is there anything else that dentists should be thinking about right now in relation to their pension? Anything they can actually do now to help themselves?
So yeah, absolutely there is, Laura. I would say that the budget that we saw towards the end of 2022 and the freezing of the lifetime allowance until 2025-26 tax year makes it ever more important that dentists are considering the likely retirement position, and the potential impact of the annual allowance and the lifetime allowance earlier than ever before. Wesleyan has recently launched a retirement club for dentists over the age of 50, offering an initial consultation with a local NHS pension specialist from Wesleyan, which will result in the dentist being given a detailed projection of their likely future pension benefits, as well as any risks or shortfalls. The local advisor from Wesleyan would then support the dentist through membership of the retirement club in revisiting the position regularly through the crucial years pre-retirement, offering support and guidance where needed. So any dentist with concerns in the area, so thinking about when they might retire, thinking about what it might look like, how much income there might be, and how that sits against their potential need for income in retirement, should be getting in touch with a local Wesleyan advisor or looking at our website for details of arranging that first interaction that could see them move into the retirement club and start to get the advantages of that service and the advantages of that forecasting.
Sounds like a great thing to tap into. Thanks so much for your time today. There's a lot of interesting information there, a lot for dentists to take away, I'm sure. We'll have to catch up again soon for another podcast.
And that's our show for this week. Thank you to Laura and Neil. Pension planning is a year-round and indeed a lifelong thing. So if you do want to talk about your retirement plans, go to wesleyan.co.uk, where you can book a no-obligation appointment with one of our specialist financial advisors. To learn more about Wesleyan more generally, you can find us on Twitter @Wesleyan, as well as by searching for us across Facebook, Instagram, and of course, LinkedIn. And to listen to past and future episodes of the podcast, you can like and follow us on all the usual platforms. But that's it for now. So until next time, thanks for listening.